Oh, here we go. I'm going live. I'll put that there. Okay, No Real Earth. That's the title. Now, what does that mean? No Real Earth. I'll bring you a bit closer. No Real Earth. What does that mean? It means that nothing is very real in our reality. I'll start with my usual points, right? Because I think that these points are the only things that are going to make it clear, or a difference, or where we can grasp what is our reality, sort of. Now, look, okay, here we go. And I've got to try to get my mind going because this is a world of distraction. Nothing is real. Everything is a distraction, even now. So I have to say the first point is that we are spiritual beings in a human body, right? Now, the human body is like our human, it's like our human computer, kind of. It's like our contact with the real world. But this human computer has been very compromised down through the years to where it is now a malfunctioning human computer. It should have been a perfect human computer, and maybe there's potential, if we realise this and throw away the artificial ones, that we could get back to using our natural human computer in conjunction with our mind and our spirit, because we are spiritual beings in a physical human computer body. I don't know whether that makes any sense. It's very hard for me to grasp too, but it kind of means that the body is our vehicle, right, in this particular reality. That's true. But it also could, if it was functioning properly, I think, but I can't prove this, give us access to the real reality, because the reality we are in is a false reality. It's a construct. It's like what we see every day is not actually the real reality, in the sense that, as I've said before, we are like players in a computer game. We are spiritual beings plonked into this reality, which is the computer game. It is controlled by other entity, other power. It's not controlled by us. We think it is, but it's not. And we are just the players, right? And we are players in this video game, but we are also playing a video game, because everything we look at is a video game. It's kind of like when I'm watching my TV, like it's on over there right now, right? That is a video game. You know it's a video game. You look at it and you think that is not real. But what you don't realise is you are watching that, what you think isn't real, even though half the time, as you well know, when you're watching the news and other things, you assume it's real anyway. So some things of it you think is real anyway, but you know, when you're watching a movie, you think it's not real. Actually, everything is reversed, so there's more reality to the movie than to the other stuff. But because everything is the opposite in this world, as I said before, we live in an opposite complex duality world. So that means that everything you see is actually should be the opposite, and actually is the opposite, but you don't see it. You see what you see as real, and you assume it's real. But what I'm saying is, when I'm watching the TV, right, I'm trying to get my head around this too, because I'm like everyone else. It's a struggle. Um, I'm aware that I'm watching something that I think is artificial, right? But I think that when I look at the world around me, like when I look away from that TV set and look at the room around me, say, I think that is real. I think that is my real reality. Whereas in reality, that also is even more of a video game than the TV, because at least when you're watching the TV, you should be aware that you're watching something artificial. Whereas when you're in the real world, you have to assume that you have some control over it and that it's a natural world, which it isn't. It's natural in the sense that our bodies are the most natural thing in it, and so is some of the earth itself, right? Everything else is artificial, and what we are kind of looking at, believing to be true. Most of every event that happens, um, every activity that takes place around me is the video game. That's bizarre and that is disturbing, I know, because it's disturbing for me too. It's hard because it's hard to say, how do I then maneuver in this world? How do I get round in this world? How do I deal with that? Because it's like saying, do I ignore everything then? Because it's all there put for me and it's all designed to keep me and my natural body, my natural human computer, from seeing the true reality. And it successfully does that. I know it does for me, but I have become aware, and that is part of it too, to be aware that your human computer can make you see much more. It can make you see beyond the video game. You should be able to see beyond the video game, but none of us can. And this is why the world is such a upside down, confused world because of that. Because how can humans possibly fix anything up or make a real reality out of this earth if they are playing in a video game but they think the video game is real? It's like they're watching their TV. They're already in a video game, but even it'd be like me watching the TV, and you do that, don't you? When you're watching the TV, you're watching a movie, you, after a while, you start to enter into the spirit of that movie. Your spirit goes into that movie. You start to believe the characters, you believe the plot, you believe the storyline. You enter into that. Well, how much harder is it for us then if we are in this video game around us and we believe it's real? Of course, we're entering into it. We believe everything about it and we play that game and we play it according to the rules of the video game and the direction that the video game directs us. Very few of us can stop and say, hey, that's right. This is a video game, it's not real. What is it really showing me? What is it really, why is it directing me in this direction? Should I take this direction? Is this for real? It's like being in a dream. You know when you're dreaming. Well, sometimes you don't. Sometimes when you're dreaming, you start to believe that dream is real when you're dreaming even sometimes. And it's the same sort of thing. It's like if you don't know that it's all set out for you and that everything is designed and everything is part of the game, like the old saying, we're all just actors on a stage, the world is our stage. That's so true. And a lot of these things that have been thrown up to us, like these sayings, are to show us that. And in fact, they're almost like a bit of a joke, I suppose you could say. Not very funny though, but you know, but what I'm saying is that if our human computer, our body and our mind and our spirit combined, because I think this is what it really is, it's combining the things, in our natural original state, we would have been aware of this and we would have been able to maneuver this reality to our benefit, because that's how it's really meant to be, but that's not how it is now, because we are playing the game. We are in this false reality, this video game, and we are playing along with it. We are playing that game, and we have been playing it for a long, long time. I know I have. And don't you ever stop and wonder why there's so much negativity? Why you never really get to be really happy? You know? I mean, if you think about that, like it's always elusive, isn't it? The happiness and the perfect life is always around the corner. Sure, you get some moments because they have to throw you that, because if it was all misery, if everyone was all misery, the game wouldn't work, because like I've said before, we live in a duality world. The the godlike force or presence that controls and directs this video game is duality, and duality creates as many problems as it solves. That means duality is like love, hate, right, wrong, left, right, black, white, light, dark, and particularly the light, dark, I would say, in the way I see it now. It's like the light and the dark should be balanced in this world. And if we were operating as human beings correctly and saw all the fantasy that is, and started to see the truth, that light dark would be more in balance, whereas at the moment it is completely pushed in the direction of dark, shall we say. So that means the world is out of sync, out of balance. And this is how the video game is playing. And this is how it is meant to be played by the forces, because they're always pushing in that direction. Because that's how the game's set up. You'll have to excuse me for a minute because there is a dark force operating over there. You see, this is what I'm trying to say, is that everything is set up to create the negative, the duality. Hold on. Very sorry about that, but that's a negative force too. Now, you might say that's just coincidence, that's this. I know it's not, because my awareness now has come to that point. But it's not because I'm particularly more advanced than anyone else. I'm actually not. I'm the same as everyone else. But because of certain circumstances, and this is why I know it to all be true, I have been forced to become aware, and I've sorted out once it was thrown in my face. So it's not like I was one of these enlightened beings that all this just come to me. No, some people it does, and some people seek it out. They're the human beings who are more enlightened, and where their human computer, their human body computer, and their mind and their spirit are in sync, and they become aware, and they are able to use their body computer to navigate this world better and to rise above the negative forces. Myself, I'm not in that position. My body, even though I'm aware of this, my body computer is like everyone else's at a low level. And I would be more inclined to use an artificial computer, right? Now, this means that I am operating in this and playing this video game instead of seeing the true reality, right? Now, this becomes complicated because I should have mentioned the main points at the start of the video, because then at least you might get some of the thing, right? Now, it's like this. Sorry about that. We live in a computer game, not controlled by us, set up by the godlike entity that controls it. Now, if you don't want to believe that, you can, if you want to, say that these entities are human-like entities. In other words, human beings who have merely took over, and because they have so much power, so much money, so much technology, that they are able to control our existence and our video game the same way. If you want to do that, you can do that. Okay? It's the same thing because human beings do operate on behalf of the controlling force anyway. As you would have to realise, because this video game that we are living in is populated by human beings mainly. We do not see anything else, do we? Now, that doesn't mean it's not there, but we only see what is presented to us in the video game. We do not see the workings behind the scenes of the video game. Just as, if you really think about it, we do not see the workings of anything in our reality, even if you believed it was this human reality where we have created it all and where we have control over it. You still would have to acknowledge that you really don't know what's going on behind most of the scenes in science and in medicine and in all the things. You only know what is presented to you, and usually that is after experiments and things. And it's the same in the big picture, really, except that in the big picture, you're talking about a lot more advanced technology. So therefore, we only see the limited video game, but we do not see it's a bit like if there was a God, right, you would not see his workings, would you? You only see the result of what he has created. Like even if you believe that God created the earth and all that sort of thing, you do not understand God. You do not know his technology or his method for making all the things he's done or the setups and everything. But anyway, it's just an example. So what I'm saying is that we do not understand the video game. Most of us don't even think we're in one. Now, the tricky thing is that I have to get my head around it. We're in the video game, right? But we're spiritual beings in this physical body that is our natural kind of computer, you could say, even though I don't like the word, but it operates the same way in the sense that it works with us. It's supposed to work with us so that we can see everything, so that we can see the video game. But because it's been put out of operation and we are now operating under the video game computer, shall we say, most of us do not have the ability to see the real reality. Because the human computer body is malfunctioning. It's been compromised and it has been tampered with down through the years. It has been manipulated by the video controllers, the godlike videos. This is their video game. They control it. They created it. And they maneuver us round it according to the game, shall we say. And you might say, what's the point of all that? Well, that depends on how you want to look at the God or the controlling force that operates it. It's a God or a force of duality. And the only reason I use the word God is because anything that controls and creates everything like that is a God-like presence. You would say that. So I'm just using that word. But what I am also going to say is the tragedy of all this, I believe, is that we are in this situation. We are human beings who are spiritual beings in this perfect human computer that was supposed to be perfect and should have given us the ability to know and see so much more. But it has been compromised and damaged and riddled with disease because the negative forces have attacked our spiritual beings, because this is not our domain. This is not where we Well, I was going to say where we naturally should be, but if we were here and we were at our full capacity, where our human body was not compromised, and to where we were aware that we were spiritual beings, and as I've said before, all connected, we would be operating like a so-called supercomputer, which they've now got us into the artificial supercomputer, and we would be capable of anything. Because, once again, human thought creates a physical reality. So figure that out for yourself. This is what the knowledge that I now believe to be true, and what I cannot operate it myself because I'm a single person and because I'm very compromised. Also, if you are positive and start to see, you will be attacked even more by the negative forces. So that means that, yes, you will be even more compromised. And this is why people do not even want to start operating their human computer, or even trying to look for a bit of truth, shall we say. They don't want to because they know that on their own they will be even more attacked negatively, because this is not our world. This is right, it's not. So you have to look at it this way, that that if we were operating at full capacity, all combined, the human computer, the body and the mind and the spirit all operating, because this body was designed to operate with the spirit and the mind, right? And particularly the spirit, because the spirit knows the truth and knows what is really the correct way to do things. It knows not to go too much to the negative, like the world has gone, because that puts everything out of balance and then we lose. So once again, it's like this. We are spiritual beings in a physical body. The body has been compromised and we are not aware that the body is valuable. And it's been deliberately sabotaged and compromised. And we do it ourselves too, because we are tricked by the false reality. So it'd be like, it'd be kind of like as simple as this. If something is harmful to the body, we will ingest it, right? Sometimes we are ingesting harmful stuff even though we don't know it's harmful. But like if we smoke a cigarette, we probably realize it's not really beneficial to our human computer body. But if we have been enticed, as the video game has made us do, enticed into smoking, and it becomes a desirable habit, then we will do that. Some people do these things more than others, but that's just an example, right? And so that compromises the human body computer and the connection to the spirit even more, so that we then are operating in the video game more, because the video game presented us with the cigarettes. We had the choice, because this is a world of duality. They have to present the choice. But it's usually seductive and we usually go for the negative. This seems to be how it has happened, and this has helped to compromise the human computer body more as well, so that then we do not have the ability to connect with the spirit to where we can see the true reality. And then if we could see the true reality, then we would not be playing the video game, you see, because we would see that it's a video game and we would say, hey, we want to have our own real reality, and we can have control over it, because the video game is not controlled by us at all. We are just players. Everything is set up for us. Everything is, already there. It's not something we think we create it. We do create it in some ways, in the sense that our thought creates reality, right? And in the real reality, if we were at our full potential, we would know, the body and the mind would see the video game and would dismiss it. And it would know that their human thought creates reality. So therefore we would combine and create the perfect reality that benefits us. Whereas the video game does not benefit us. We're just players. We're we're like running around chasing illusions because it's not real. It's a video game. So we can never really solve any problems that way. Even if we think we are, we can't, because we're playing the video game. We're not solving the problem by creating our own reality, because our thoughts have been taken over by the video game. Whereas our thoughts are meant to be what we create reality with, because human thought can create a physical reality. That is the power that human beings have, but they are unaware of it, and they've lost the ability to connect to where they can use it. So now they are in the video game, playing the video game, and they will take the course that the video game directs them, unless they decide to. Every decision you make is where the video game will give you a choice, but the video game will always be pointing you in the direction of the video game, because it's all set up. They want it, they want you to keep playing the video game, right? Because if you decide not to play and not to take the direction of the video game, and decide to use your mind, body, spirit connection, and get your body and mind and spirit all working together, and to where you are aware that everything you think can create a physical reality, then you would not play the video game, because you would say, hey, that's ridiculous. That means I'm not using my abilities. I'm not human. I'm basically becoming an art of and you're becoming you're in the video game, and if you're playing the video game and the video game is directed by the video controller, then what are you? You're not a fully functioning human being creating your own reality with your thought, are you? You're not using that ability. You're playing a video game. And that video game you do not have control over. You only have control over your own thoughts. But if your thoughts get taken over by the video game, then you are not using your thoughts to create the reality that you might even want. If you're happy playing the video game and you think the video game is great, and you think this duality world, this duality setup, this opposite complex world, this negative, positive, negative world, this right, wrong world, this um, video game, because a video game is a setup, isn't it? We all know that. If you go and play a video game, it's already set up. So the world is already set up, you know. But human beings do have the ability, via their thought, to create a different reality. But while they play in the video game, they're not going to do that, and they can't do that, because the video game takes their attention. They think the video game is the reality. They think the video game is all there is. They do not think that they have actual control over every single aspect of a physical reality. That is why they were given the body, and that is why we came here, I think, was to create a physical reality that serves us. Instead, we have decided to play in the video game and not create the reality for ourselves. And this is why the world is very right, wrong, left, right, black, white, always in chaos, always in conflict, always the opposite complex, always the duality is there all the time. Because I think that, and I could be wrong about this, and this is giving human beings a lot of credit, but I'm not giving myself or human beings much credit, because I'm saying that we have these choices and these abilities, but we are not exercising that power or that ability. We're not using them. We are playing in the video game. Even I am. I'm aware of it, but I'm still doing it, because the video game, when I go outside, the video game takes over my reality, because my body is compromised and not well and not functioning as the full human computer that it should be. And because there's negative, because there's positive and negative forces, and the negative will come down on you in this reality if you try to operate the mind-body connection, shall we say, if you try to do that, because the video game has now taken over our reality completely. So, singular human beings have to really rise up very high, and they're only the few enlightened ones. You can be aware, but there's still a difference between, like myself, being aware as to being actually enlightened. In other words, to where you really have chosen and have the ability to use your full body with the connection to the spirit and the mind, and operate them all together at high capacity. These are what you might call very enlightened human beings, and there's very few of them, and I think a lot of people actually know that. And I don't wish to go religious, because it's not about religion and stuff, but I could do that. I could go into all sorts of other things, because there's truth in some of these things. And I've often used this example of a man called Jesus Christ when he was here on this earth, if you believe that he was here. Now, he was a man. He was certainly in human form, no different to us. And this is just what I think. I think that, like when he actually said, because he did say some profound things, I think. Whether you believe in that religion or those gods or stuff doesn't matter. You can still said some very profound things. And I think it fits this reality, regardless of whether you want to. I'm not going to go into all that God-like stuff, all that, because this reality is taken over by a God-like presence. And you could say a God. I'm sure some people would say it is a God. And I'm saying that you'd have to say a God-like force or presence, because if it controls everything, right, and it operates and shows us the reality that we think is real. So it's certainly all powerful, if you want to look at it that way. And that's what some people would say is a God. And it does not create as much as what we think, but we create with our thought. But if our thought is controlled by technology, which is the God ruling presence, it's a technological world now, and the God presence is technological, then our human thought, which is creative, will create a technological reality, which is different to the natural creative world that we should have been created, and different to our natural body, which is our natural human computer, which can create whatever we want if we are combined, because there again, we are all connected. So can you imagine what human beings could accomplish if they were aware? If they were aware, and if they could get back that connection, throw away the artificial connection that is the God controlling force that they have now given their thoughts over to. So therefore we create a technological reality, or a reality that that the force that controls the video game will direct us in, okay? Whereas if we were operating as human beings with our spirit high and our mind-body connection all intact and all operating at full capacity, and combined with every other human that is on this earth with that connection, and realizing that our thought can just create a physical reality, what would be the potential of that, would you say? Instead, we play in the video game and give our thoughts over to the video game, the technology. And so that's the choice that we are making and have made. Okay, I don't think I'm explaining it very well. It's very difficult. It's hard to get your head around. But what I was going to say, there was an individual called Jesus Christ that was here a long, long time ago, and he was what you would call, I think, an enlightened human being. I think most people, if they believe that he exists, would probably say he was very enlightened. Whether you want to say he was this or that, I think that would be simple anyway, that he was enlightened, therefore he was at the higher level of the mind-body-spirit connection. He knew how to create with his mind. He knew what was going on in the reality. He knew we were in a video game. He knew that everything around him was dark forces, dark video game. He was singular, so there again he tried to get other human beings to realise that they were in the video game, but was not successful. Had he lived a bit longer, he was getting through. I believe if he had lived a little bit longer, he really could have changed the world, because people would have become aware that their thought creates reality. They would have did what he did, operate at full function, all connected. Their thought creates reality. They can take control of anything. They don't have to play in the video game, don't have to obey the rules even of the video game, because once you transcend beyond the video game, you no longer have to play by its rules. You are no longer ruled. You no longer give your thoughts over to the technological video game. When Jesus Christ said, be in this world, but not of this world, that's, I think, what he was trying to say. He was trying to say, be in the video game because you have to be, because you can't escape the fact that this reality is the video game. That's why we have the human body. But do not be of it. Do not be controlled by it. Do not, do not just be guided and pulled along totally by it. Be aware that it is a video game where there is choice, because the godlike controlling entity that controls the video game still gives humans the choice. He points them in a certain direction, yes, smoke the cigarette or whatever, but you still have the choice. So what I'm saying is that, that's why, Jesus was saying be in this world because you have to be. But if you're operating at full capacity, you don't have to be of it if it is bad around you. You can't afford to be of the video game. You can't afford to, if you want to operate at full capacity yourself like him, then you have to step away from the video game, and you have to make the choices. Every time the video game offers you a choice, you have to make the choice that will enable you to be able to create with your thoughts the better reality, instead of giving your thoughts over to the video game where then they create the reality for you. They would use your thoughts to create the reality, but it will be a different reality to your natural reality, because human beings, they're their body was the natural computer for the full function of creating everything. But if you give it over to the video game and become compromised and follow the video game, then you will give your thoughts over to the technology, the video game, because the video game is technology. It's not real, it's artificial. Whereas human beings are real, they are not artificial. You know, you getting what I'm trying to say? It's simple in a way if you think of it. If you realize and say, yeah, well, we are spiritual beings, we have feelings, we have thoughts, we care. We're supposed to anyway. If we don't, we're starting to give our thoughts over to the technological game, you see. You see what I'm saying? Because that is the opposite of what is human. The video game is artificial, it's not human. It's all set up, it's false. It's a false reality. And it doesn't operate through the same high, advanced thinking of the human being that operates under intuition and feelings. And these are the correct truth. The rest is all intellect, artificial, and the opposite to what is human, and means that the human operates at a low level. Their body becomes compromised, their mind and their thoughts are compromised and taken over by the video game, and therefore they do not operate at full capacity and they do not see the true reality. Because if humans could operate all combined, realizing that their thought creates reality and they got control of it, then there's a lot of limitlessness to that. The potential, I would think, would be very, very great, much greater than anything that is possible by the video game. But also you have control over it, whereas the video game you do not have control over. You have to say, I'm willing to follow this video game and hope that it will lead me in a direction that is beneficial to me. And also I will never have any, I'll never have any true actual choice to create my own reality. You'll have to assume that the video game knows better than you, and that you are limited, and that you do not have the correct, that intellect, the intellect of the video game is superior to your intuition and to your spirit and to your feelings and to your correctness of knowing what is the truth. What is really dark and light, what is really black and white, what is really right and wrong, but not to be caught up in that game, because that is the video game. That, see, this world is a world of total, the video game is total confusion, because even in me saying that, a human being should know what is the correct right or wrong, right? But the video game uses the human intelligence, the human spirit, to manipulate it, so that we get caught up in the right-wrong game in their video game, to where we love hate and think right-wrong. Whereas if we were in our true spiritual state, we would know it's a game and we wouldn't buy into it. So we wouldn't buy into the love-hate. We wouldn't buy into the right-wrong. We'd say this is all just part of the game, and it limits us. It does not give us the ability to create the better world. It means that the world will be created for us by the video game. We will have no control over it, regardless of what we do, because we have given our thoughts, rightly or wrongly. See, this is the trick of it, is that human beings, even when they think they are doing good, and even when they think, yes, I'm saving this world somehow, even if you thought that, you can't do it if you do not realize that it's only your human thought that can create the reality. If you've given your power over to the technological way of thinking. You see what I'm trying to say is that even if you are a spiritual human being, as there are many still left on this world, if you operate still in the video game and believe that what the video game tells you about this reality is true, and that the solutions to it are only through the intellect and the video game, because the video game gives us information. It's a game, it gives us information. We have handed our power over to the information video game, the computer, etc., all that sort of stuff, and to what's around us, to the information we receive. I turn my TV on, I think that what I'm watching, some of it is real, I think. I never actually stop and say, hey, it's a video game, so none of it's real. How could it be real? I don't do that, because how can I? That's not what I have been, um, we have been taken over by the video game. We believe our reality to be real, and it's not. It's a video game. And when I say a video game, I mean that it's a false reality. It's what they want. It's what the video game controller, the godlike entity, wants us to see and wants us to believe about this reality. And if we give our thinking over to it, then we are giving our creative power, because if our human thought creates physical reality, we are giving it over to the video game. Do you kind of grasp what I'm saying? Because it is tricky. It's hard. It's hard for me to believe, because I've given it over to. I gave it over to the video game for years and years and years. And if the video game had not sent so much negativity towards me, I would still be playing it. And in fact, I still am playing it, because the video game forces you to play. Even if you're aware that it's a video game, it still forces you to play, because if that reality is pushed in your face, it's a bit like this, right? And this is going to sound bizarre and you're not going to get it, I know. But like if I walk out on the street, right, and I go to cross the road and I say, hey, this is just a video game, my thought creates reality. I should be able to walk across that road with the traffic and make those cars stop, right? My thought should be able to control that and create that reality to where I could walk across with all those cars and they would just stop. But in reality, you won't do that. I won't do it either. Even knowing that perhaps there is potential there. But don't forget, it has to be combined too, because we're all connected. Every single human being is connected. So that's where the power comes in. But we're all disconnected now. We're connected artificially by the video game, the internet, the world we live in now. So it's got more so to where we are more disconnected every single thing. But I think that at the present time, we're now playing the video game almost, well, 100%, whereas in the past we were only playing the video game, 50% or something. We've always been playing it and always thought that what was around us was real. So we've always played it, but we still had more control over it, because we still had much more of our own natural kind of thinking. Our body would have been more natural, whereas now we're pretty much playing in that video game 100%. And because the game is ruled, it's a technical world, it's a technical video game, it's a technical reality. We are meant as human beings to be able to see that all this technical reality is not really our reality and is not right for us and is not really what is real for us. But it's almost impossible. Like I say, I will not walk out in front of the traffic, because I know that my single thought would not have the power to stop it. Whereas, because even though my thought can create reality, it would now be so limited, because the connections to all my other fellow human beings has been disconnected, and they're connected by the internet instead, which doesn't give them any power. That gives the power over to the internet and to the video game, you see. That's how I see it anyway. But I'll just finish up by saying the main points, because I don't think I've put this video very well together. And I think that that's another thing. You have to put it at least clearly so that people might grasp it, because it is hard. It's hard for me to grasp. Every day I'm still playing in the video game too, but I know it's a video game. And that makes it actually harder. So on the track, you know, how can it be? Like, if humans really accepted that they do have great ability and great power that way, if you want to look at it, why would you do that? Why would you need to do it? Why would you do it? It wouldn't make any sense, would it? If the things that I have been presented with and now believe to be true, human beings are spiritual beings in a perfect human computer when it is functioning fully and when it is not interfered with by the duality negative video game that we live in. They then become aware of the reality that they're in the video game, and they become aware but also know that they are all connected, and then they become aware of the fact that they can create a physical reality by their combined thinking. So that means they could create any world they wanted. You know, and because they will be spiritual, they will create a very good world. But if they play in the video game, then they will be caught up in the duality, which is all about right, wrong, left, right, choice. You still have choice in the video game, and it is all about choice. And some people could say that the video game maybe is here as some sort of spiritual test. I do not know. I think it's pretty hard myself. I don't necessarily know whether I buy that or not. If you are very spiritual, you might actually buy that and say, hey, it is a test to test every single human being with the right, wrong, with the choice, to see if they will take their spiritual path and bring human beings right up to where they could literally be the gods of the universe, you could say. Because the potential would be limitless. Or whether they will go down and play in the limited video game, because I would think it would be limited, and go away from their natural human computer, their natural spiritual way of thinking, to where they see, I think that at a spiritual level, and this is just what I think, and I'm sure some people would agree, that they just automatically know what is the right choice, and they see the reality for what it is, and they know what is the correct things for a spiritual, highly advanced, enlightened human being to do. And if they know, and if the human beings, even the naughty ones, realise that they had the power to create with their human thought and that they really were spiritual beings, some of them would even turn around. Because this video game offers many delights, many rewards at a physical level, because the video game is all physical, but it's a false physical reality, and it's a very controlled physical reality. And it's where you have to do certain things to benefit even in the physical reality. You have to make money to create a good physical reality for yourself in the video game. Whereas in the spiritual realm, you don't need money to create the perfect physical reality. Your human thought combined with all the other spiritual human beings can create anything you want at a physical level. The video game would have to probably close down because there would be no need of it. You would not want it, because you would say, why should I have to do it the hard way when I can do it the easy way? And to where I can see everything, know everything, and create anything. I think maybe when Jesus said we are all gods, perhaps he was saying all gods in the sense that all combined can create anything, but only combined, because, like, I'm not a god. I'm just a tiny speck. Every human being is a speck, but combined, all-powerful in this realm. But this realm is not our realm anymore. It's taken over by the video game, by the artificial, and if you want to say it's beneficial, that it's all a choice, that we're given the choice, then okay, that could be a religious thing too, or a spiritual thing too. I do not know the answer to that. I I would just think that that it's quite possible that that our reality was just taken over, and we allowed it to be taken over by the video game, by the all-powerful negative God. And when I say negative, I mean duality, because to me, I don't know about you, but I personally think that duality is negative. And I could be wrong about that. It could be a wonderful choice. It could be that we are given the choice and we are tested. But I wonder if it's not just plain negative. In other words, if I'm presented always with right, wrong, always with duality, when I should just automatically know everything and should be able to create something better than what is, um, perhaps that's just part of the video game that tricks us and lures us into then the love-hate thing, which is bad, because the minute you're in the love-hate thing, of course you're creating conflict and chaos in the world, aren't you? Whereas I think that if we were all combined and we just knew that we had that ability, and we're all spiritual, so we would automatically know that there is no hate, shall we say? That's the duality. That's the video game. And most people would probably disagree with that. They say, how can you have love without hate? Well, I'm just saying, can you? Is it not possible that if we are spiritual beings in a physical body, and that if we are all connected, and that our thought can create reality, this is how we originally were meant to be before the video game took over, before the duality took over, before the opposite complex took over, before the right-wrong took over, before the love-hate took over, before the dark-light took over. Surely, you know, perhaps there's no need, perhaps there doesn't have to be the love-hate. Perhaps there could just be the one. Maybe if you are a spiritual being, maybe that was how it was meant to be. I do not know. I'm not saying that I know the answer to this and that this is 100% correct, but I think it is another possibility. But certainly, if the things that I said about human beings being all connected, their thought creates reality, and they're spiritual beings, that would probably make sense to me, that maybe we're not meant to be seeing this duality that's all around us in this artificial construct video game. We're not meant to see love-hate. We're not meant to see right-wrong. There is no right-wrong. There is no love-hate. We would just all know that we're all connected, that we can create anything with our thought, and because we are spiritual beings, we would create what is beneficial to us. Not all this negative right-wrong and all this chaos in this world, and to where we have handed over our ability to create with our thoughts over to intellect, over to the technological video game, which is controlled by the technological force God that operates it and sets it all up. And we play in it. We think it is real because we have lost the ability to realize that we can create our own reality. Instead, we have handed over our thinking and our thoughts to the technological video game that rules us around us. And we think that is reality. We do not think that. So, do you get what I'm trying to say? So, if I could now create something with my thinking, with my thought, but I walk outside and I see a physical reality consuming me around me, it's very hard for me to stand there and say, hey, this does not exist. I'm going to create something beautiful with my thought. Also, if I'm not connected to the others, I have very little power, you see. So that's another thing, because humans are now connected by the internet, by technology, instead of connected spiritually to one another by what I think is a valid invisible cord, but then again, the internet's an invisible cord too, don't forget. Technology is invisible too. We do not see the internet, we know it works. So why not also say, hey, why could our connections to other human beings that we cannot see be just as valid? If you can, I've said this before, if you can try and see if it works for yourself. If you are a human being, try thinking things and see if it doesn't pop up. Just little things, only try little things, because like I say, you're powerless just as one, like myself. You can only create something very tiny because you have not got the connection to the other human beings. We are now only connected by, like I'm doing now, by talking and by technology. But just try it and see if you cannot just think of something and see if even your thoughts do not manifest, even the coincidences, the random things that you see as coincidences, where you've got intuition and you've thought something. Just try and test this out and think about it even over a lifetime, because that's what I've done, and said, hey, yeah, I've missed every opportunity because I basically thought, oh, everything is just random, everything is coincidence. My thinking has no control over anything that happens. And this is how we all operate. I just put it out there to try that, because maybe if you start to see a little bit of what they call the old synchronicity, because I've certainly seen massive amounts of it now that I've become aware of it. Because before I just put it all down to coincidence. And don't forget that the dark forces, the duality will come against you. So whatever you try to manifest will, unfortunately, that's the problem, is that because we're not combined, we do not have the power. It's a bit like the some of the movies where they say, the power of three or this or that. It's like you have to have more than one to have that ability functioning at a high level to where you could create a very big physical reality. Whereas if it's just one individual, that means that your power has been cut off from your connection, so you've only got the minutest ability. And so therefore you're not going to notice the fact that if you do create something, that it will be so small that you would just think that means nothing. You know what I mean? It would be something so tiny. But the video game force, control, the entity God that controls the video game, is very aware of all these things, because it has not only the technology, but the power, but also the knowledge and the vast, that entity also is enlightened, like some humans, a few have been down through the many centuries. But that enlightenment is a duality enlightenment, and wants you to play in the duality video game. Whether that is for our benefit or not is for us to think about. Sometimes, like myself, when you're met with a lot of dark forces, you do tend to see it as negative. You see that there are still choices, but you're like, hey, I think I could have made perhaps the right choice with a little more sugar, as opposed to, sour or negative stuff. But some people are enticed with the sugar and with the physical benefits, Others are just met with all negative dark forces. Why this is probably a personality thing, a influence thing, what your position is, where they think you will go. Because if you don't want to play in the video game, they're going to send the dark forces against you to keep you in the video game. Whereas if you're already playing happily in the video game, they're going to entice you with the benefits of the video game, the material world, So that's how the video game tends to operate and work. And like I say, there is the trouble is with the video game is that the video game only benefits really a very few people. Now, most people think it benefits like the vast majority, and even the less human entities on the planet think that the video game benefits them. I would dispute that even. I would say that it benefits only very few. Um, and in fact, the video game really only benefits in a way if you assume that it's that humans have the potential to create their own perfect video game and a better video game, then I would say that the video game only benefits the God entity that actually has created and controls and operates the video game and sets up everything in the video game. But that's just what I'm surmising. Like I say, it could be there could be positive aspects to it. But either way, if we make the wrong choice, then it's not going to benefit us anyway. Even if you looked at it upon it as like a godlike presence testing us and saying, "Hey, here's your two choices." Each time you're always making the wrong one. I know I have, and we all do because. The seductive power of the video game and of the reality, the false reality, always makes us frightened and makes us enter into the physical rather than the spiritual, to where we become very frightened and want to preserve our body and want to preserve this physical false video game reality. We don't tend to operate by making spiritual choices most of the time, and even that is a right-wrong thing. And we delude ourselves to believe the video game because then we can clear our conscience and say, well, look, yeah, there is a right-wrong, there is a good-bad. I should let that person be punished because they're bad. Even though you might say, hey, is it right to kill even a bad person? I don't know. So, you know what I'm saying? So, because if you're a spiritual being, you probably shouldn't kill. So even if you kill a bad person, you're still killing and you're not, you know what I'm saying? Or am I being too ridiculous? Or, I feel that maybe it sounds ridiculous, but, you know, and that's assuming that even that, I don't think that would even be an option probably if we were all connected and knew we could create the thought and we knew our own power. I don't think there would even be bad people. I don't think there would be this love, hate, this good, bad world. I do not think so. But that's what's gradually happened. I think at one point maybe we were quite innocent and, maybe even a Garden of Eden type scenario, but we decided to play in the video game. We decided to taste the tree of good and evil, right and wrong, yeah, love, hate, and venture away from our perfect state because we probably didn't realise it was a perfect state. We probably got seduced, I would think, because there again, even knowledge and intellect can be very seductive too. But surely, if you already have the ability to know the truth at full capacity, if your thought could create reality, then you create truth. You create the reality, you create the world, you create everything. So to me, I mean, I'm probably getting a bit confusing, but surely that is beyond intellect. Intellect keeps you in the video game where you're trying to think things out. But if you already know everything, if you were already placed perfectly to where you should have had the ability to know everything and to see all the truth and to know that you can actually create the truth, almost, you could say, because if you can create anything, that means you are the creator. There is no truth. Human beings combined were the creators. Now we are the video game players, and the video game creates for us. And whether that's a test, whether the God entity that controls it, is that good, bad thing, that's what we seem to believe from religion. But there again, that's all part of the video game too, don't forget, because even religion is part of the video game. So you do have to try to discern and use that ability that we were supposed to have to discern what is the truth and what isn't. And it's hard. I mean, the video game master is a genius at setting up every trick, every confusion, and every test imaginable. You know, you could be a genius and still probably fall prey to it. You know, I've no doubt that some of your top scientists are playing full in the video game, you know, and that lesser people are more aware. And so they have power then because they are creating our reality, you see. Yeah, instead of us creating it, they're creating it. Because if geniuses play in the video game, they will create this reality for us. Whereas there really are no geniuses because all human beings were supposed to be geniuses. You see, all combined, we are one big genius, but separate and without the knowledge of what we naturally can do, then, you know, we're very limited. And that's what we believe ourselves to be, and that's why we play in the video game and believe the video game is the power, and the video game and the intellect has all the answers, and that's the way to go. You know, that's how it is, I think. And I only hope and pray, dare I say, without sounding ridiculous, and I can't emphasize how much of a strain it is, because if we could just grasp that, even I find it hard to grasp, and I do not experience it because I'm not connected either. But I believe that it is a very, very, very high possibility. I think it is a very high reality. But I think the rest that appears to be the future and the high reality is all an illusion and a delusion and a game, yes, a setup for us to play, and 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 it's not seeing the true reality at all. I would think that we would see everything, whereas now all I'm seeing is what's presented to me, and I'm looking now at what's in front of me and thinking, what a fake, stupid reality we live in. It is a fake, stupid reality, and I'm getting angry, and that's not spiritual either. And you see, we shouldn't be like that, and I know that, but it's frustrating, and but it is a fake, stupid reality, and if it's designed to test us, we're failing the test badly. We all have, and I have too. And how can we not fail if we do not recognise even those abilities? If we hand ourselves over to playing the game, we believe that what we see in front of us is real, and that we actually, at a physical level, are creating it. Look, we are, but only because our our negative thoughts and our feelings can create more bad reality. That is true. But you see, we're all separated and disconnected, and we're not spiritual. We're angry, we're love-hate, we're in the duality and the opposite complex of this thought-controlled, you could say, video game, because we have given our thoughts over to the video game. So therefore, our thoughts are now being controlled by the video game. It's just common sense that if you decide to play in the video game, like if you go down to the arcade and decide to play in a video game or on your computer or whatever, you give your mind over to that computer and to that video game while you're playing it. The only difference is we're playing it in real time, in real reality, in our everyday lives. Everyone is. We all are. I am. And it's not what we are meant to be, I don't think, and not what we're meant to be doing, because we are our own. We can create our own video game. We have our own master computer, and we will see beyond the video game and can create much more than this pathetical video game. I think it's a pathetical video game, personally. And I wish I could get out of it and go on a planet, because to me it does not look positive. I do not like it. That's just me. Whether that is testing me, I do not know. But, I do not I see it as a real trap. I do, and I feel trapped. So, you know, that's for everyone to figure out. And you are being given choices every day. We all are. We always have been, and I think most people would realise that. But even in the world, like as a whole, every little decision you make, even at a little level, contributes to the whole world, because that becomes the system of the video game. Video game is a control system. It's a false reality. And dare I say that, it's very hard not to play in the reality that is before your very eyes. And it's almost impossible, just as it is when you watch the TV or you watch your computer or play a video game that you think is a video game. While you're playing it, you enter into the spirit, you give your spirit and your thought and even your body over to that game. And that game will control your thought, your body, and your spirit. And believe you me, it does, because if it goes into the negative, then it will control your mind, body, and spirit to the negative. Your body will not function at anywhere near the capacity that it should. Your mind will not think or discern very well, and your spirit will go into a negative, destructive way of thinking, and it will, you will cease to be human. But like what I'm trying to say is the human was a unique thing, I think. Even I look at it separately and I say it was meant to be something that should have, this is only my humble opinion, but I think we were meant to rule the video game and the universe and much, much more. But instead, we have started to play in the video game, and now we are completely consumed by the video game, as a lot of tech people even are. They'll be the first to admit it. And this is what has really happened on the big world scale. Our reality is what controls us, and it is a false technological video game. Even if you just want to say that the internet, has taken over us. Well, I think most people would agree with that. We all have been taken over by it, we think we control it, but we press the buttons, but can we create a perfect reality with it? No, definitely not. And have we? What do you think? Do you think we have a perfect reality? Do you think we have a perfect world? Do you think even in this, this physical reality that we're in, do you think it is as human beings spiritually would think or want it to be overall? I know it sounds a lot to think about, and most people are so busy playing the video game, being caught up in being forced into the video. We're all forced to play in it. To survive, you have to play in the video game just to survive, just to get food in your mouth, and whether it's good or bad food, whether it's, even the addictions. Yeah, we might want a cigarette and we know that's not good, but we're forced into this video game, and we have to operate under its material rules, because that's what we have allowed to happen. We no longer have control over even the physical in this video game at all, much less the ability to create with our thought any other sort of physical reality, because we don't think we have that power anyway. We think that there's only the physical, and that our thinking is only the fantasy. Just like when I watch the TV, like now, if a film comes on, I think that is fantasy. Whereas if I watch a current affair or something, I think, well, I know it's a false picture that's in front of me. I know it's a video or it's a piece of film, but I think that they're telling the truth in that. Whereas, signing off.